Welcome, everybody, to the Pennsylvania High School Football Report podcast. I'm Brian Linder. I'm here with Eric Epler and Dan Sostek. We've been doing a marathon, one of these marathon podcasts. We knock out a couple weeks in a row. Eric, real quick, let them hear your voice.
I am Eric Epler, a longtime sports reporter for PennLive.
Eric, you may hear in other podcasts as he is going to do some drops for the PA High School Football Report podcast. I think that will be inserted as advertisements on other podcasts and various things across PennLive. Eric has explained that he has a golden voice for the situation.
I think the word I used was majestic.
Brian, you're just unveiling all of our behind-the-scenes stuff now. You're telling them we recorded 3 podcasts. You're telling them it's supposed to be an air of mystery.
That's Dan Sostek. The award folks know him as Don Sostek.
The paperwork is pending. I'm legally changing my name.
Speaking of which, guys, if you get on social media and you look around, 2 highly well-regarded, massive journalism sites have ranked the PA High School Football Report podcast nationally. Now, one has us, I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm more than a little bit disappointed. It has us at 31st in the nation. And then another one has us at 6th in the nation. But if you add them up, divide, then we're in the top 20, which I feel a little bit better about in the nation on average. How are we feeling about this, guys? 31st, 6th?
All right, I'll give you a challenge, Brian. Can you name the websites off the top of your head?
One of them is Million Pods or something like that.
Well, we'll take whatever. I'll get a top ranking from pizzahut.com or something.
Both of you just ruined our chances for being ranked next year because you're being sarcastic.
No,
about
this is what they like.
Organizations who ranked us nationally for podcasts.
This is what they like. They like the honesty. A podcast is supposed to be honest. So if we haven't heard of them, we haven't heard of them.
I'm not sure it's organizations. My conspiracy theory is it's you, Wade Marshico. That's my conspiracy theory because I know Wade's always like doing podcasts and stuff.
I don't want to admit it, but because it's kind of known to us. I am kind of concerned it was like an AI-generated website.
I didn't even realize it was that.
I don't know if it is, but that's just my guess that they looked up. But you know what? Let's think on the bright side. Let's just think that our content is so good.
Listen, anytime you could be ranked right next to Black Swamp Football.
That's my favorite podcast.
That's a win. That's a win.
I got to go listen to these podcasts. Bottom line is 31st, 6th, you add them together, you divide it by 2. We're averaging at the top 20 high school, very specific genre of podcasts across the country.
Here's the key. We're even better than that. And I'll tell you why. A lot of these ones that are ranked ahead of us are actually like all sports. In fact, one is like MLB and NHL, and they talk football, hockey, baseball. So it's not really prep football centric like we are. So we're doing even better.
So I'll bring my Madden champ on here. I'm going to bring him on here one day. You guys will see.
That's probably why we're so low.
He's not, because he hasn't been on here yet.
It's all your Madden BS.
He hasn't been on here yet.
I don't even know if you have the console to play the game. Do you?
Yeah.
I think it's all just banter, Dan.
I'm dominant. Well, listen, we've been talking a lot. Matt Ortega's coming on here. He's a Big 33 coach. Big 33 is coming up next month. We wanted to get him on here. I owed him a call anyway. Talk to him a little bit around All-State. He's got, I think, right now, Kevin Brown's committed. I'm a big Kevin Brown fan. He's committed to Penn State. Tyler Merrill's committed to Notre Dame. He's got a big lineman out in Coatesville, Maxwell Hiller, who is, with those 2 committed, and heck, maybe even if they weren't committed at this point, he might be the most coveted lineman in the state. And then he's got Terry Wiggins, the linebacker. But we're going to talk to him a little bit about his team, talk to him about a little bit about the Big 33 and that process. Guys, let's go ahead and get to coach. All right, guys, we have our guest here this week, Coatesville coach and first minority Big 33 coach, Matt Ortega. Matt, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
How you doing? Good.
First of all, I've owed you a call for a while. Matt hit me up back when All-State stuff was coming out. Wanted to know about Max Hiller. We did all PA2. And I never get upset when the coach asks me about his guy because that means they care about him. And I tell you, looking back at Max, I do think that might have been a miss on the All-PA and All-State, but we just did a big story on him, Coach. Real quick, what can you tell us about that guy?
Oh man, he's a special player. I mean, I had a chance, to know him since he's been real little and just saw him grow and develop. And he's just a special breed. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, but along with that, he got the work ethic. And probably why he stands out and why he's been getting all the offers and interest is because people see a kid on film who's very physical, who has all the size and all the attributes, but he's also plays nasty between the lines. And just a tireless worker on and off the field.
I think the cool thing about him is, I don't know, because you've been coaching a long time. How many times have you seen an offensive lineman of his pedigree and then his younger brother, a year younger, is like a bona fide basketball prospect too? The family feels like they have a lot of different athletic traits throughout those two.
Absolutely. His father was a Division I soccer player, and tall, he's like 6'3", played at Coatesville as a soccer player. And the mom was athletic. I think she played field hockey. But when you saw the two play basketball, they were always the kid that would play two age groups up. You could just tell there was something different about the two. Then when you saw him play Little League football, Max, it was just like, wow, okay, there's something there. But when I saw his body develop in 7th grade, I had him in class in 8th grade. I'm like, this kid's going to be 6'5", 6'6", or maybe 6'7". Just to see the way he runs. And then watching him play basketball as an 8th grader is just like, this kid's going to be the most high recruited kid I've ever had. I don't even get me started on that academy. He is so talented, just like Max, but just in a different sport. But if he came out in football, he'd have 20 offers after his freshman year if he played football. So it's just a special family, special gene pool.
You got Terry Wiggins there too, right? Who's the linebacker, is doing really well. It looks like you got some guys right now. How's Coach Phil looking, man? Tell us about Terry and tell us about this team that you got coming up, man, because it looks like you got some guys there at Coatesville this year.
We've had some really good success. I mean, obviously we had a lot of success, a couple of years ago, and not to our standard, kind of like dipped the last 2 years. But we feel like we got a special group, and obviously it starts with those two. Really feel like we got a lot of key pieces coming back from last year, a team that lost to 3 teams ranked in the top 10 in the state. We lost by, less than 5 points each time, so we were right there. It's just we couldn't turn the corner. But this group's, they're ready to go. The offseason's been one of my better offseasons in the past 10 years. So hopefully it carries over. But Terry, he's another different type player. We've never really had a kid long as him and can run is like him. I mean, I could honestly in high school play him at corner. That's how fast, that's how athletic he is. And I think that's why he's kind of exploded on the recruiting scene because, the guys are kind of seeing that piece of how athletic and how he can run. And his body just going to develop in college. And, I truly like the program that really like him at linebacker because he's a 3-down linebacker. And I think that's what's really had him blow up. And I think that's what Penn State sees him as a 3-down linebacker, that you can move around. So definitely excited about him. He's a special athlete.
Coach, I wanted to bring you on here too because I know you and I talked late last year and a couple years ago now. I kind of got looking down the Big 33 list, and I actually called Cal Everett. Cal, you remember the Big 33 having a minority coach? And he said no. And we started looking, and at that point, it had been 66 years, and the Big 33 had not had a minority coach. And I know that since we did that, talking to Gary Cathell, and I know you're very involved in the Coach Association as well, you guys kind of put that on the front burner just as far as like getting a minority coaches association going and stuff like that. But I feel like the ball had probably already been rolling a little bit. Like I know that you've been in consideration for the Big 33 coach, I think before, right? You're making history, Matt, coming up here in just a little over a month, I guess, right? What does that mean to you, and what was it like for you to be the first minority coach of the Big 33?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's a great honor. I think it's definitely long overdue, but I think the cool thing is that I feel like moving forward, there's going to be a lot more minority coaches that are going to have this opportunity, in the resurgence of football, in the city of Philadelphia and Harrisburg area and Pittsburgh area. There's some great young minority coaches out there that hopefully this opens up the door for them in the future. And just excited to be able to be the first one, but also open up the door for more to come. And our association has grown with minorities the last 5 years and excited to see that. So definitely headed in the right direction as an organization and definitely good for our state to finally have a minority coach. And, I'm super excited to be able to be a part of it in May.
Now, you and I did a really in-depth interview back, like I said, late last year, and I still have those notes, and I'm still going to do a really good story on you before the game. You grew up watching this game, right? I mean, for people that don't know, you're from Stilton. You ended up, I think, transferring to Central Dauphin. You graduated from there, right? But you grew up watching the Big 33. So tell us a little bit about that and, like, what this game means to you. I think it adds a little bit extra with you being able to coach in it as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think I missed a big 33 game since I was, probably 5 years old. So we always made that trip to Hershey to the game. And it was funny because my wife always, always lets me know. Because when we took vacation on the big 33, always had to come a day early, back from vacation and make sure we made the game. Trust me, she lets me know that. The game just really meant a lot to me and my family. And just something that we always cherished, over the years of how important the game was. And it's definitely special, again, being from the Harrisburg area and going to Hershey, every year to see that game, to see the players that have played all the years. It was just amazing to see those players and what happened to them when they went on to college and NFL. And again, just speaks volumes of how good football is in the state of Pennsylvania. Again, it was definitely special going to the Big 33 all those years.
Coach, it's Ep. I wanted to ask you, I get a lot of questions every year about the process, the selection process for Big 33. It's very different from how Maryland selects their team. It's very different than how other states select their all-star players for East-West games or North-South or what have you. Do you like the process? How much sort of in-depth can the head coach be with the selection process for the team?
I go back and forth. I mean, we've been doing this way for so many years. I think back in the day, when the majority of the Power 5 players were playing in this Big 33 game, it was pretty easy to pick the team.
Right.
It's got a little harder, with the selection based off of who's available, who's not. We had some issues in years past where we weren't even sure the kid went on in second semester of his senior year, and that wasn't communicated sometimes well to us. It's definitely gotten a little more challenging to choose the team based off of that and who's available. But I really feel like Maryland does a pretty good job with the system that they use. I kind of brought the idea up at our PSFCA meeting last week, and I don't know how popular it was because, it's a double-edged sword, but I kind of thought like, hey, should we consider what the U.S. Army game's doing, possibly bringing in juniors? If we did that, we'd probably have the old game back, with the best players in the state playing in the game. But then again, as a high school coach, selfishly, do I want my best player playing his junior year, in an all-star game over the summer and the spring? But again, I just felt like it was something for us to throw around, possibly with the future of college football, where kids may be signing contracts their senior year in high school and they won't be available. So, but currently the system, we've been doing it. It's clearly been working because, we got a nice little streak going.
Yep.
Again, in the future, I feel like we're going to have to change and adjust some things to really keep this game going in the future.
Yeah, people said, well, why don't we do an invite camp? Why don't we do these things? And I'm like, it's hard enough when you select the team, you've got to go through and say, okay, this kid's enrolling early. This kid's now, he got an injury during the playoffs. So you do have all those things to factor in. I think the concept is good where, you put coaches in a room to pare down positions. But again, I also think too that maybe a new kind of fresh perspective on how the team, is selected might even enhance the game. I know it's changed and the NCAA calendar is really sort of forced to change to Memorial Day. As you know, it used to be July 4th every year at the old concrete palace there. But how much say do you have as a head coach, or are you just another coach in one of the position rooms?
The system is now I'm just another coach, so I'm assigned to a room, and that's the room that I choose that position group every year for the game. But, they do ask me philosophically, hey, what are you looking for? So, a couple of things where, how many linebackers do you want? How many D linemen do you want? What kind of players do you want at safety, outside linebacker? So we kind of like have a little bit of say there. One of the big things for me in this game is get these kids who, not necessarily in football shape, and it's going to be hot Memorial Day. So, when it gets late in the game, you're going to need that extra wide out of DB, to be able to cross over and play on the other side of the ball because of cramping. So that was one of the things I wanted to make sure we had some players who were going to be able to be two-way players if need be. It's funny. There's only one guy that had complete control of picking his team. That was George Chunk, because who was going to say no to him? That was funny. Right. I was working for him when he was the head coach of the Big 33 game, and George picked the team. But he was the only coach that I know that ever did that. Pretty much been the committee, and we get in the rooms and we're assigned a room and we evaluate all those kids at that position group, and then we rank them, and that's how the team's picked.
Kind of along those lines, something that I've always wondered, that I feel like kind of gets a little overlooked, but what's the process going to be like for, getting these kids ready to play the football game? How do you kind of pack in a week of practice, get an offensive line kind of gelled together in a way that you're not going to have the ball flying over the quarterback's heads every couple plays? And how does the actual coaching aspect, the actual game plan, play calling aspect work for the Big 33? How are you going to go about kind of handling that situation? Because I feel like, everyone just looks at the rosters, gets ready for the game, but they kind of forget, it is still a football game. Football is still played. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you definitely have to practice and form a plan that's a little bit different than coaching your team because of that limited time. And then the one other thing too is, you have guys who come from different systems, especially up front. Kids who came from wing T systems, kids who came from different types of offenses. So, you got to kind of take that all in consideration of where these guys came from and what's going to be the best fit for them in terms of run game. And, running game is always tough in an all-star game like this because playing man-to-man, the box is loaded at times. And in any football team, the offensive line is always the one that takes a little bit longer to gel. So that's one of the things that makes the game hard. And I think that's one of the things why, if you look back at Maryland's roster right now, I told Jesse Shea, who's going to be our defensive coordinator. I'm like, look, you realize they got 2 running quarterbacks. They're going to try and neutralize that run game with the quarterback run game. So, our eyes are open and we know that. It's definitely something we're going to have to work at because, again, in this game, offensive line-wise, it's a struggle. For us, schematically, we got to make sure that we, keep it very basic in terms of our run scheme. And then we kind of get a little bit more complicated and put ourselves in this position to be successful in our play design based off the game's rules. So I think that's where we can get an advantage skill-wise and then making sure we keep it as simple as we can up front for those offensive linemen.
Coach, I know the NFL, I don't know if they had a decision on the tush push. They're trying to get rid of the tush push in the NFL.
It's tabled.
My question to you, Coach, is it time for PA to abolish the wing T offense?
Now, you know what? I think the wing T offense, along with the triple option offense, gives those teams you might not have the players that some of the other teams have. And if you run a good wing T system, you can have some smaller linemen. You run an option type offense. You can play with some smaller players. And I just think it's good to have because it gives those high schools that might have different players and not have the players that some of us big schools have. I think it kind of gives them an advantage and gives them a chance. And defensive coordinator, defensive minded guy at my heart. I had the luxury of going against 8 teams that we played at a 10 weeks was the wing T. I remember those days. So I'm not dating myself here, but I am. And truly have a great understanding of the wing T and a lot of appreciation for it. But it is kind of like moving away and it's becoming more traditional spread offense right now in high school football, but you still got your wing T teams out there. And I think it's a great offense that gives those types of teams some advantages.
I think you got some really good players out there, and throughout the years when I've been here and I've had various health issues, you've always been really good, like getting on the phone with me about a few things here and there and stuff like that. I think you were probably on the list before we ever realized that Big 33 hadn't had a minority coach. I think you were on the list of being talked about. Your resume's amazing. We've always appreciated you out there at Coatesville. Wasn't that long ago I was coming down there. You guys were slugging it out with Harrisburg and stuff and having some great games. So we look forward to seeing more from you, Coach, and talking to you some more around the game. Like I said, I got our notes from a really good interview, and I still plan on doing a really big, good story on you because I think you deserve it. Guys, you got anything else for Coach?
No, we're good, Coach. We'll be talking to you shortly here. I know practice for Big 33 is coming up, so obviously we'll be around and we'll take care of you here on Memorial Day weekend.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
All right, guys, that was Matt Ortega. We had him in for a little bit of a quicker interview. I know he was riding around in his car, he told me, when he called in. But look, like I said, I owed him a call. I did a very deep interview with him, in-depth interview with him late last year, and then I had health issues, and I was not able to get the story done. I still look forward to doing that before this year's Big 33 game because it is historical. Look, we kind of dug up the fact that PennLive that they had not had a minority coach of the Big 33. But Matt Ortega's not the coach of the Big 33 because he's a minority. He's making history in that area, but the resume is outstanding. And the man is outstanding. There's deep roots there. Grew up watching the game. So what do we take from this interview, guys? And what do we think about Matt Ortega and what do we learn here?
Matt Ortega is a Steelton guy. So obviously I've known about Matt forever. York High coach for 4 years before he slid on down to Philly and took over Coatesville. He's just a genuine guy, a hell of a coach. I mean, he's a really good X's and O's guy. He's had a lot of success at Coatesville. Over the years, it's not been the easiest place to coach.
It's a basketball school, first and foremost.
Yeah. He's had to kind of persevere through a lot of adversity down there and a lot of off-the-field issues surrounding the school district. Now, it's better now. They've got great people in place, Ortega being one of them now, to kind of take care of that, not only the football program, but obviously the community as well. And some people don't know about Matt, too. We did a story on him back in 2013 when he donated a kidney to his father. You know, they always say it's that surgery is tougher on the donor than it is the recipient. But if you look at Matt, obviously he's the picture of health now. Really good guy, too. And like I said, he's nervous, I think, a little bit about keeping PA's streak alive in the Big 33. PA's got 4 in a row against Maryland. He'll do a tremendous job. He's been doing it for a long, long time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the game.
I've always been fascinated by the idea of play calling in games like this. Like during the Pro Bowl, I've always wondered about it. I mean, the NBA All-Star game, there aren't plays. They just jog up and down the court. But football is a sport where you can't really do that, right? You do have to come up with a general plan and you do have to work hard. And I just feel like all these discussions about like football All-Star games, you just look at the roster like, oh, that's cool. But then you realize, like, these guys don't know each other. You all got to be able to pull together, push together on the offensive line. You got to run. So I thought it was a kind of cool answer he gave there, too. And the fact that he's already thought about it that much when the game's still a month away and everything, and they're doing the scouting already, I think kind of tells you the type of job he's going to do, trying to extend that streak. Yeah, I think obviously they hit a home run with this pick, and hopefully it opens the door. Because he made the point, too, that football in Philadelphia has been really hopping. It's always pretty strong in Pittsburgh. And then here in Harrisburg, we've had some really good teams and really good programs run by really good coaches recently. So there's no excuse for Matt to just be a blip on, the radar. There should definitely be, just based on merit alone, there should be one like in the next couple of years, again, another minority coach.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the process too. Like I asked him about the process of selection, and how much they're involved. The Pennsylvania State Coaches Association, these processes have been in order for 20, 30 years. I mean, it's not just about selection. It's also the selection of coaches. And it's based on merit. It's based on having coached in the East-West game first as an assistant. You're a head coach in the East-West game. Then you sort of move up the ladder. So I always sort of wonder, now it's 2025 and things are changing in college football left and right on the calendar. Is it time for the state coaches, the high school coaches to kind of maybe rework some of these processes or at least look into trying something on a 2-year trial period? And that would obviously get more minority coaches in that top spot. But Dan's right. We've got a great sort of up and coming list of coaches in Philly and Pittsburgh and in Harrisburg too now that are all worthy of being in that top slot and coaching Team PA. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what, how Ortega's presence sort of kickstarts that.
I think his team has a chance to be pretty good this year, Eric. We'll see. I know he's got 2 real studs there in Hiller and Wiggins, so we'll see.
He does a fantastic job. Like I said, it hasn't been an easy, 15, 16 years there. There's been some really tough times in that school district, but it is definitely on the rise, and he's a big part of that.
A couple years ago when he had the running back, was it Aaron?
Aaron Young, my mom's worker's son.
And Avery Young, and then his son Ricky was playing quarterback. And look, I think Harrisburg got him at least once probably to go to the state, or kind of, they had some real slugfest with Harrisburg down the line and stuff, but probably could have easily gotten to state once or twice there as well. So
they have a nice football facility down there, host a lot of games there too.
And having covered a game there when they were kind of rocking and rolling. They played Harrisburg one year in Coatesville, and it was packed. You don't always see packed houses in Pennsylvania for big games, but it was a packed house. He's a good coach, man. Got a good program. I think he's going to do well in the Big 33. It's good to have him on. Guys, I think we got another podcast. PennLive.com is the website you all need to be checking out. Eric Epler is on Twitter. Eric, where you at?
At 3Jacker.
Dan, tell them how to find you.
_Sostek.
I'm at Sports by B Linder, and our producer Megan is at Savvy Literate on X and Twitter. PennLive.com. We'll see you next week.